attending PODFEST EXPO 2025. This is the 11th year. This is not an advertisement for PODFEST EXPO or Chris Cromitzo. It is the reason why I really believe people should attend conferences, especially if you're looking to get into the world of podcasting, which is growing fast and furious. This will be my 5th time to speak there, my 5th time to attend. One of the main reasons I go is for research, because it is such a fast and growing industry. It's easier for me to meet people who are setting trends in technology, or perhaps setting trends in interviewing people, the audio, the visual. There's so many things going on in the podcasting world. I don't monetize my podcast. I use it as a marketing tool for people who are doing good in the world. So my philosophy on monetizing is very different from most podcasters. But the main reason I love going to PODFEST EXPO is because it cuts down my research time. When you go through the exhibit hall, I've learned so many things that eventually I'll use in my podcast. I am a self-taught podcaster, and I have to give a shout out to Dave Jackson. I went through all of his videos, and I use Libsyn, and they are amazing. Again, this is not a commercial. This is just, if you're thinking about getting into the podcasting industry, this is really people I want to speak to about attending PODFEST EXPO. Research-driven is the reason I go, number one, so I can quickly cut my information learning in half. I think almost every conference, the second reason we attend is to meet new people. I have certainly met many people over the 5 years that I've attended. Some I still talk to on a regular basis, and some just because the way the world turns, I don't talk to any longer, but I will see them at the conference, and it'll be fun to catch up to see where we're going in our lives with podcasting and the other aspects. The last issue of why I attend is results. Because when I attend PODFEST EXPO, I find ways to help other podcasters. The one gentleman in particular is Junior Sparrow, who has an amazing podcast called West Virginia, but it goes by the initials WV, Uncommon Place. For me, this man is all over the place, but in a good, creative way. When I first began podcasting, he was a pillar for me. I could turn to him so many times for help and for clarification, and I'm still going to ask him for clarification during this PODFEST EXPO. There are people you will meet in the podcast industry who cannot do enough for you. And the same in return, because I have been a public speaker for over 30 years. I like to help people make a better presentation and how to manage their fear of public speaking. That's one of my main services. To wrap this up, the reason I attend PODFEST EXPO is because it cuts my research time in discovering new trends, new information that I need to be using with my podcast. So it cuts my research time in half, obviously meeting new people. And lastly, it always results in finding ways to help other podcasters and to find podcasters who will help me. To make a segue into Kundalini Yoga, which I have been studying for 30 years, and it's the second topic in my podcast, Wealth Yoga Wine, I'm including this time another woman who I met in one of my classes for podcasting, who teaches Shin Jin Jyutsu. It's not your typical jitsu. It's very hands-on, meaning we use our fingers and our hands and our feet to calm our body, to build our immune system. That link is on my podcast also. Another thing I've changed about my podcast in 2025 is I'm a vegetarian. I have been a vegetarian for 40 some odd years. However, when I was in the food and wine industry, when I was in the wine and spirits industry, in the fine wine and spirits industry for 26 years in New York, there were many times when we were in Europe and I was presented with some kind of meat. Very, very rarely did I partake in this because most European countries have a very healthy diet, a lot of vegetables, and we were always out at farms where we're surrounded by vegetables. One of the things I talked about in the last podcast is grilling your vegetables. When you grill your vegetables, which I love to do, especially in winter, because you're next to a nice hot barbecue grill, is you want to have a more robust wine, something like a Syrah, a Cabernet, a Malbec. I love Chinon, which is from Loire. I want people to understand that now I'm going to focus my true lifestyle, which has been a vegetarian for 40-some-odd years. I'm going to focus that on pairing your wines with great vegetarian dishes. To wrap this up, the reason I go to PODFEST Expo is for research, ways to help other podcasters with their public speaking, making presentations, and meeting new people. Check out the Kundalini Yoga section, which is really going to be Shin Jin Jyutsu this time. It's a super, super, super technique that one of my friends is teaching in virtual classes. And remember, try vegetarian meals with exquisite wines that I will always have listed now on my podcast. I'm Valerie Hale. I create this podcast once a week to help people improve their thoughts because thoughts become things. I always include my online class. You can get a free sample of it when you click on my podcast details below. Merci et au revoir.